It's just so funny, and you tweeted this, how dismissive the Cowboys, like McCarthy especially, can be about like our suggestions. I don't play fantasy football. What do you want us to do? We threw for 374. Well, what do you want us to do? Dak and Ferguson are getting theirs. And then they clearly make it a point of emphasis to get Brandon Cooks the football, first play of the game, nonstop throughout the game. And this is what I talked about on Friday. You can't really ask Jerry or McCarthy about it because they're never going to insult the Giants that publicly. But in a game like this, how much can you work on other things? In a game like this, how much can you try to go ahead and get people right? And Jerry would say, oh, they're an NFL team. Look what happened against Arizona. And McCarthy would say, seriously, you want me to insult another NFL team, especially in our division? Division games are the toughest, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. That's all a bunch of hot air. And we saw it yesterday with them definitely making an effort to get Brandon Cooks going, and they did.
They did, and they needed it too. They needed it too? That's not English.
That doesn't work. It's amazing, your vocabulary.
I know.
Your grammar is mind-blowing that you are in Dallas-Fort Worth and you speak the way that you do with the words that you pick and the phrases and sentences. And you graduated with a degree.
With an English minor.
Oh, well.
Yeah, with an English minor.
English minor in Tennessee.
Yeah,
holy crap.
That means I know the words. Okay, I just don't know the order to put them in. There's a difference. But what were we talking about?
Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. It was good to get him going. They needed to because, let's face it, the best way to go about beating another a great team like San Francisco or pick a team is really it's not CeeDee Lamb. It's your second, third, and fourth receivers because they're going to be matched up on second, third, and fourth corners. And the further you go down the list, theoretically, the worse they're going to be. And if you've got a great number 3 or an elite number 2, you're going to be slightly better. It's going to be a mismatch. I mean, another team's number 1 corner, if it's a lockdown guy, I mean, you might be able to match up with CD. But if you've got if your 2 and your 3 is much better than their 2 and 3 from a corner perspective, I mean, you're going to light them up all day.
Here's Mike McCarthy. What was the difference with Brandon Cooks getting involved yesterday?
Oh, I just think, his opportunities came together. So I think, the protection part of it, we're getting to where we need to be. We still have work to do there, going off of last week. And then, we definitely took a step this week. And I think just with that, we're able to get into the play types that we want to live in. So, and I think you're seeing more of that here the last couple of weeks.
Dak, same question. How did BC finally explode?
Practice, man. I mean, y'all know me. I always talk about practice, what we put into it, going back to this game plan, going back to early in the week. I told him, let's put the work in, and it's going to come out. I mean, he's been there for us all year when we've needed him to. There's been games that we've come back and said, could you get him more involved? And yeah, sure, maybe so, right? He's that type of player that deserves those questions when he's not getting those targets or getting those catches. And then a little communication that we had throughout this week, and then he had a great week of practice. Some plays where, built and meant up to go for him, and then the others, he went and won. When they would double CD, they would do this or that. He went and beat his man and made it easy for me to throw.
Since this is usually below the belt, let's talk about Bobby's man crush for a second, since he's already up tweeting about number 4 today. Bobby off for the week. 12th time in Dak's last 24 home starts, the Cowboys have scored at least 40 points. That's crazy. That is unbelievable. 50% of the time, Dak Prescott at home is scoring 40 or more points, or the Cowboys are. You get some defensive touchdowns, of course. He completed 11 of 4. These were not dink and dunks. You want to go down the field? You want to stretch it? They completed 11 of 14, over 10 air yards, 271 and 3 for Dak, going down the field. Highest completion percentage over expectation, over 10 air yards of any quarterback the last 2 seasons. So going down the field. 12 of 18 against man coverage for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dak Prescott now leads the NFL in yards, TD passes, passer rating, EPA, CPOE, LMNOP, QRS, and success rate versus man this season. If you play man against Dak, the numbers are showing that he will absolutely shred you. So those are some of the star-ups. Tolos.
Did you say he leads in DVOA?
No, I said LMNOP.
Oh.
Yes, DVOA.
That's interesting because, I
don't know, CPOE, EVA, I don't know what else.
EPA. Yeah, because his DVOA, which is that's a defense adjusted value over average. So the average is 0. So anything above 0 that's how much better than average you are for the year. So this may mean that his kryptonite would be zone if he's tops in man coverage, because he is 11th in the league in that metric overall at 10% above league average. Brock Purdy's number 1 at 43% above league average. That's how good of a year Purdy's having. But that encompasses both, man and zone.
Star Up, Star Down is brought to you by the Big Green Egg here on Sean and RJ. Tolos are coming in. Jonathan, we cannot overact to Dak's performance against teams like the Giants. Let's do it against top-level defenses and schemes. Tom, guys, it was a great dub. Let's not forget how we felt after the Niner game. I guess the 8 a.m. callers forgot, LOL. Got to slow it down just a little bit. Beating a third-string quarterback isn't going to have me beating my chest. I mean, you're right. What does this mean? Nothing. Now, there'd be a point in time where we would say, oh, great teams punish and beat bad teams like this. That's changed for me because the Cowboys are not a great team. I put a lot of emphasis on the word great.
They're bullies. They're bullies.
They're bullies. And Texas William made the Debo, the D-bullies, the D-boys. They're going to beat up on the weakling. Yep. And then Ice Cube punches you right in the mouth on the street with the San Fran boombox, and you crumble. So that's what you said weeks ago about them. They're
bullies.
They're the perfect bully.
Yeah, and because they did it to the Rams. Now they had a good game against Philadelphia, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say that Philly's defense is mid, but then prop up how the offense looked against them. Which one is it? Is it a great defense they played well, or is it a bad defense they played well? Because
they're not. You talking about
Philly's
defense?
Yeah, they're secondary.
Yeah, they don't have a great defense because of the secondary.
Yeah, their secondary is rather trash. So you should put up a lot of numbers on them. Again, the Cowboys always play well against the NFC East. At least Dak does. That's one of the great things that Dak does. Is you can mark it down. They're going to win a minimum 4 games against the division. Usually it's 5. It's a minimum 4. And that's how great teams make the playoffs every year. The regular season for the Cowboys is not about making the playoffs. The regular season is a formality. They are going to make the playoffs. It's been a formality the last 3 years. This year and then the last 2. They're going to win 10, 11, 12, 13 games. You never know. They're a great they're a great roster. They're a really, really good football team. It's about what they do in January.
Jerry Jones on this offense taken off in the last 4 weeks.
Our quarterback is playing at a level that allows us to really do what Mike wants to do, what Schottenheimer wants to do, and I think you're seeing that. You're seeing the result of a lot of practice, a lot of reps, seeing the result of a lot of guys figuring it out with each other, and certainly in Dak's case, taking advantage of that. I like the way we're running the ball tonight. We have such respect. Giants run defense. Have a lot of respect for them. So when I see some of the things we did in the run game, I like that. Now I understand how you can get it going, get that score out of kilter, and get to have a different picture than it might have been.
Star up to the offensive line pass protection. McCarthy said it was a major point of emphasis during the week. Dak Prescott was not touched. He had all day just picking the Giants apart, just picking them apart. Star up to the pass protection. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Cowboys defense getting after Tommy DeVito to the tune of 5 sacks, 17 pressures, and 26 dropbacks. 26 dropbacks, 5 sacks, 17 pressures. They started 0 for 5 on third down. So it was varsity middle school. I don't even want to say JV. It was an insult to the JV teams. That was varsity versus middle school. The Giants are horrific. But McCarthy, again, listening to the show, I guess, RJ, he told Aaron Andrews reported Mike's emphasis, details, small little things. And I won't care about what the Cowboys do until they prove themselves in those moments. I'm always going to bet against them to screw up and butcher and make fools of themselves in the crucial, clutch, killer, detailed moments. And until they do that, a win like this. Okay, it's nice. Had the stats. Let's get Dak in the MVP discussion. Let's have CeeDee Lamb. Is he the best receiver in football discussion? Let's do all that. Let's get Dorrance and Fowler and Hankins and Mozzie in the stat sheet. What are you going to do when the temperature is at its highest? What are you going to do in crunch/clutch time when it's 1,000,000 miles an hour, when it's chaos and confusion? How are you guys going to operate?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? Nothing. We're past the point of any of this mattering until that against the better teams, in my opinion.
That's the CeeDee Lamb that, and I think Carter Freeman can attest to this too, Kevin. This is the CeeDee Lamb version I thought you were going to get when you drafted him out of college.
Okay.
I think this is the fully realized version of professional NFL CeeDee Lamb. And the last 4 weeks are proving that. He can do it in a variety of ways, even though Greg Olsen was like, hey, he said he never wants to run the football again. Look, man, he can do those things. You give him the ball, you get it in his hands, you create the space for him, he can make some amazing things happen. I was very surprised this morning when I saw his one-handed grab down the sideline was number 10 on the Sports Center top 10. Yeah, it was number 10. How ridiculous is that? I guess if he'd have made it a touchdown, it would have been number 1. But that was an amazing catch to get that on a bullet in his hand. It sticks, and he makes a great play, and that gets everything rolling. But this is a guy that, Kevin, and go back and look at his numbers in college. This many receptions, this many yards was something he did consistently. And so I think one of the things, there's a couple of different things. A, bad opponent. We'll put that first. We get that. B, I think they're starting to come into their own as an offense now. They're starting to understand some things because, Kevin, we also saw multiple plays to Brandon Cooks that you and I
oh my God, it was delightful.
Saw throughout the entire training camp that we were like, where the hell are these, dude? What are you doing? Why are you saving these? And maybe McCarthy's like, because I want to win at the end of the season, not everything during the beginning of the season. I can win just being this team. This roster should be good enough. But somebody did say Cowboys love to beat up on the small guy, but when someone their size or bigger comes around, they get scared. And that is something that I agree with. I agree that this team does know how to punish people that are not good, rosters that are not good. They know how to do that. And at some point, they're going to run up against other teams that are just like them. Kevin, that 5-game stretch where it has Seattle, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Miami, and the Lions. The Cowboys are just as good as all of those teams. They're just as good as those teams. Actually, probably a scotch better than most of the teams in that bunch. But that's when it comes to the details, and the Cowboys have to be prepared for those moments when the big details or the little details are something that's important against teams like that. And they have to be prepared to beat up those teams and be mean to them.
From the 6A2, I like this idea. Your recent interview with Jerry is what prompted more Cook's involvement. I'll
take credit for it.
I absolutely hope that is the case. But you really, that texter in your response really hit on something. The Cowboys are the absolute best in the NFL. It's not even close at beating up on subpar teams. Like, you go around the league and you're like, hey, you're going to play the Giants, you're going to play Carolina. Like, obviously, I realize that people are going to bring up the Cardinals. I still don't understand what happened in that game. Cowboys are awesome at smacking down teams that they fundamentally do not believe are on their level to begin with.
Yeah.
So did you learn anything new yesterday? That's what I want to start with, because I know there is a crap ton of positives coming out of that game. Was there anything new that you learned about this team yesterday, or do you just fall back to, but it was against the Giants? Because I understand that's going to be everyone's counter argument to whatever you say. Hey, pass protection looked a hell of a lot better. It was against the Giants.
Well, hold on. Can Terrence Steele be better this week? Yeah.
Yes.
And whether or not it was against the Giants, I mean, he oftentimes was lined up in a favorable. I'm actually going to have to go back and look at all the times he was lined up, but a lot of times there were some positive things that he had in his way. But I think he was better this week. And that's better than he was last week, right? Agreed. And last week, we needed him to be better.
Goodness.
So if he is good this week and can continue and looks like he's on a path now to where, he's going to be better. Gaining confidence is huge. Ask Bruce Bochy about confidence, man. How many times during the season, Kevin and Bruce Bochy say, well, I just want to keep this guy confident. If Terrence Steele did something this week that he can build on, then the protection was better this week. Again, it was against the Giants. Can he do it next week too against Carolina? And now does he in his mind believe that he's that back to what he is? That's something he needs to get over, not just physically but mentally.
I think that's a great point, because if that confidence does build up, not only with Steele but Cooks, Dowdle, there are a lot of different people that you can pick from on that list. That could be big. I wanted to throw out a couple of preposterous stats from yesterday if I can. That actually should have been the first segment.
All right.
We should have titled it Preposterous Stats from Yesterday.
Please spill it.
Is the Cowboys outgained the Giants by 468 yards. Now, is it weird that I'm a little salty about that? Because at one point, Alec, I know you saw this, it was more than 500 yards, but then the Giants were like, oh, we're going to put together our last minute, took 75 hours to complete the drive to really see what our quarterback is made of. So much so that wasn't even Greg Olsen was like, good Lord, this is the longest minute of football ever played. It put the NBA to shame in terms of lengthy final minutes. And so they were up in the 500s, but it ended up, they gained 468 more yards than the Giants. That's the largest yardage differential in any NFL game in 44 years.
Wow, really?
So that's just crazy
I'll take
to
it.
me.
Yeah, I'll take it.
And then the other one I wanted to throw out there was CeeDee Lamb. Third straight game with 10-plus receptions and 150-plus receiving yards. Never happened in the history of the NFL, ever.
Is that good?
Yes.
For
Yes.
a really good number 2 wide receiver, yeah, that's pretty good.
It's still so stupid. And I really hope, I don't know where, I know we're going to get to this more later. Real quick. I don't know where everybody has CeeDee Lamb in their wide receiver rankings, but I sure as hell hope that we can say, hey, I might not think you're Tyreek Hill, but that doesn't mean you're a number 2 wide receiver. That's stupid. You know what? I'm going to be nicer about it.
He's a number.
I disagree very much with that opinion.
He's a number 3 right now, as far as yards go, receptions go. He's right there in that category, Kevin. And his targets and receptions are amazing. He needs to bolster the touchdowns still, and that'll change a lot of things. But by the end of this season, he'll have another career high in receiving yards, and people are going to be looking at that going, "Dang, he was the legitimate option," and people couldn't stop the dude. That's a big deal right now, Kevin. Can I add Rico Dowdle in that conversation?
Sure.
I learned that he can run just as well as we thought he can whenever they block it well. And again, it is the Giants, but he ran hard. And yes. I'm not asking for anything to change, honestly. I don't want them to say, you know what, now Rico Dowdle's the guy. Don't need that. I have a 2-back system that I think I can run very well and take full advantage of. That's a positive right there.
Now, it did also lead to perhaps the most hurtful meme I saw all day.
You love memes too.
I do.
You're a meme guy.
It was because I was like, oh, that is so rude, but I get what you're saying. It said, name a bigger feud than I think it's East Coast, West Coast, something like that. And it said Tony Pollard versus the End Zone.
Oh,
and I was like, that
is rude.
It's very rude. Now, do I think it is humorous? Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make me sad? Yes, it does. But that is also just rude. But I get their point, because after that first drive, Corey, I was going to be really mad.
What about your awakening of Jalen Brooks, Kevin? Have we woken up a sleeping giant, or when Kevontae Turpin comes back, Jalen Brooks is kind of back in?
Okay, probably this. Look, I can't tell how sarcastic you're being.
Who wants the Jalen Brooks era to begin?
Look, here's the thing. I feel this very strongly. I'm not, and I know you're kidding, I'm not here to say the Jalen Brooks era has begun or anything like that. But I will say, don't you like knowing that when Turpin was out, that you had another option? Or if you run into another wide receiver injury or something like that, that you do feel at least a little bit comfortable Jalen Brooks can go out there and do the things. And that's what I like. That's usually the only good thing that ever comes along with.
So what
injury.
you're saying is we have too many good wide receivers on this team.
I'm not.
Michael
gonna
Gallup
say that.
gets 2 targets. one of them's a touchdown. Like, that's going to happen every week.
That was amazing.
Brandon Cooks was amazing. Even Jalen Brooks was tearing it up. He had 4 targets, 4 catches, Kevin.
Look.
I am excited that the depth is good at the position. That's a good positive thing.
Don't start this. Don't encourage him from the 214 hashtag free Jalen Brooks.
Oh, I love it.
Stop.
I love it.
You're doing.
Keep doing the things.
And there's a lot of feedback here. And I wanted to hit one of these specific texts. I apologize, and I'll try to get it verbatim, and you'll know that it was your text. That was great, but I still worry about playoff caliber opponents. I think that's totally fair. Here's the one thing I will say, and I think we'll dive into this more with Mickey because he is very firm in this opinion, is you need to be really good for 4 weeks to get you back to a point where that's going to matter again, right?
Okay.
Because that's when you play Philadelphia again. And so you could go into that Philadelphia game 9-3. And then you'll get like that taste of your playoff opponent. And maybe you feel that way about Seattle too. And that'll give you a better. So you dominated in phase 1. Right? And so I know Carolina, if you do the same thing, is probably not going to change people's minds or the Commanders. But guess what? Then that would get you through phase 2, phase 3, and that would only leave you with one more step before getting back to another test that people will buy into and making it matter. Because if you were to go 2-2 in these games, oh great, you play Philadelphia again. Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter.
Kevin, I actually just wrote this down. I'm actually kind of happy that they haven't beaten the big opponent yet this season, because then there is no reason to smell themselves, as Dak says. Like, I'm serious.
Oh yeah.
When you keep getting slapped by the bigger bully, then you still keep working on things, and you don't go, well, we're really good at that, and why should we work on that stuff? You keep working on these things. That is something, Kevin. If they work and put in that work, and then they're at a next level by the time they hit that 5-game stretch after what you're talking about, then that could be the moment where they're like, hey, we are this good, and recognize that they get hot at the right time. You know, we talk about that. We just saw it happen in the World Series with the Rangers. They were a really good team. They hit a bad stretch and said, we don't want that stink anymore. And then they went on a stretch where they just reeled off all the wins for the World Series. I almost think it's a positive that they haven't beaten up, or they haven't gotten to beat up a team in the regular season that they know they're going to probably face in the postseason, because they need to grow as they go along the rest of the season.
And Corey, I'm surprised you didn't bring this up, because I've seen a couple people text in, hey, but did you see what Noah Brown did down in Houston?
Oh my gosh.
And I think that's
the
Corey.
top 3 receivers over like the last 5 weeks are CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, and Amari Cooper. Like, those are the top 3 receivers in the NFL in the last 3 weeks.
Based on your logic, we had to clear those other 2 out.
Yeah, so Jalen Brooks. How would we ever know the Jalen Brooks era exists?
I don't know if I'm still ready to go in on that.
Take a look at some Cowboys Twitter here with you, though. Top tweets going viral about America's team. 2 quick throws to CeeDee Lamb, has 11 catches for $151 and 2 scores. He now has 68 catches, the most receptions by a Cowboy through 9 games in team history. Michael Irvin and Jason Witten had 66. So this is the most catches we've ever seen a guy have over the first 9 games of a Cowboys season. That from the Twitter account of Todd Archer. And I feel like we've talked about this a couple of times in recent weeks, but it's worth bringing up again as we're observing this in real time, guys. You know, let's talk about this one. Where does CeeDee go amongst the best Cowboys wide receivers of all time? If you had to start a Cowboys team, you got all the 88s to choose from. You got anybody to choose from if you want, Brian. I don't know if you'd seriously consider any non-88 for this. Who are you going with? Dez, Irvin, Drew, CeeDee?
Well, Lamb is on pace to have the most receiving yards and receptions in Cowboy history, which would surpass the playmaker, which he did in 1995. And now with 17 games, he might be blowing those numbers out of the water, at least be on pace for it right now.
Right, there were times in the first couple of seasons that people weren't sure if he deserved the jersey number.
Let's think about it this way. Okay, we're all defensive coordinators in the league.
Yeah.
We're defensive coordinators. Who do we not want to play against of that crew? Who's the guy, like, we're getting ready for a game, and we don't want to face one of those 88s. Now, I could go back. I'm ahead of you guys because of the Drew Pearson one.
Right.
Yeah. Drew wasn't a speed guy. Drew was extremely tough. He was reliable. He made huge plays in games. And then he played in an era where they used to headhunt.
Yes. Yeah.
So he would get crushed by Jack Tatum or Mel Blount or one of those guys.
The original and the most battle-tested.
Battle-tested, tough, couldn't run out of sight.
Yeah.
Couldn't run out of sight.
But he'd still juke you.
But, he would still had some moves to kind of separate and make some plays. Now, that's my first 88 right there. Mm-hmm. But, man, being with Dez Bryant.
Dez Bryant's 2014 season, I think you can put up against any receiver in the history of the game.
That was insane.
So we don't want dominance. Now, do we not want to play? Okay. We'll take Drew Pearson out of it, just because you guys don't know it like with Drew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know he's not an 88, but Bullet Bob Hayes. I mean, they made a new defense to cover.
Okay, I thought you were just using the 88s, but
any Cowboys wide receiver.
Any Cowboys wide receiver. Oh wow, yeah. Those 88s are special.
I know. I don't think any. I mean, I can't differentiate between Dez, playmaker, and CeeDee Lamb right now.
Because you've had some guys like Lance Allworth was on this team. He was a Hall of Famer from the Chargers way back.
They were all about the third or fourth best wide receiver in the league during their heyday.
Yeah, I think if I had to rank those three, I'm going playmaker, Dez, CD. Right now, I'll take those three in that order.
I think this current CD is Oklahoma CD.
He is. Yeah. This is the best version of CeeDee Lamb that we expected and hoped to get.
When you watched him play at Oklahoma, that's the kind of guy that I was seeing on film.
He was asked what statement he is making. Michael Gelkin with the quote here in Cowboys Twitter, top tweets going viral about America's team. I'm the top receiver in this game, and it's no question about it. If there is, I'll see y'all again next week. He is the first player in the NFL Super Bowl era to record double-digit catches and at least 150 yards in 3 straight games, and says value on his contract extension is climbing. I think this is one of those cases where you give him the market-setting contract. Like the agent's like, well, this guy makes this, so my guy should get this.
So we're not going to get third best money?
No.
We're not going to get the third best money out of this?
No, I think you're close enough. If you're the third best wide receiver, but your stats say you might be the best, I think that's close enough to give. You don't want to send the message to the rest of the team that you can be this good and we're going to fight you. You can fight everybody else. You can fight the 8th best player at his position or the 12th best player at his position.
They fought Diggs, didn't they? No, maybe not. Did they fight Diggs?
Well, they didn't fight Diggs because Diggs was willing to take 10% less.
Mm-hmm. But we consider 15. Diggs one of the best corners in the league, right?
I know. He's one of the best, and he was willing to do what you want.
Exactly.
You know, I think it, we'll
You're not
see.
getting a discount here, are you?
No, I think it's a great strategy by the Cowboys to try to get a 10 or 15% discount on every single player that comes up. But there's some, I think, that it's just not worth whatever amount you're going to save here over the next, 15 or 18 months or however long you end up negotiating with him. And I don't know. I think the same's true for CeeDee Lamb as well. Like, I can't imagine somebody offering me $29 million and I'm like, no, I want to go play football 25 more times to try to get 31. I'm taking the 29.
How different has this conversation evolved now just in the last month to 2 months? Because preseason we're having this talk and we're getting texts like, CD isn't in the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type of category. He's not going to get that record-setting type of money. Well, now you look at the stats that he's putting. He is in that conversation.
Completely going
off. Quarterback's playing well,
You're totally relying on him. I mean, sure, even Jalen Brooks can produce against the New York Giants, but you're probably totally relying on CeeDee Lamb until we have another series of games that proves the Brandon Cooks thing is
one
repeatable.
of the 3 that he lit up was the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep, and that's not the first time he's done it either.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time because I just have Michael Irvin just killed us when we were in Green Bay. I mean, we couldn't handle him.
Yeah, they
and I've seen teams not be able to handle Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of.
I'll never forget who was it, the Saints or the Lions. They put 2 guys on Dez. The line. I mean,
like a punt.
Oh yeah,
it was unbelievable.
Yes.
Like Dez was unstoppable at times. And yes, we are getting a lot of texts that we have overlooked Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens did have a 3-year period with the Cowboys where he was damn good with Tony Romo.
You got to win one game. I hate to say it. I think I want T.O.
Really? I'll take Michael.
He's more of a matchup nightmare. It's all about matchups. We just said that last segment.
I know
Have
you
fun
did.
matching up with that
I
dude.
know, and you know what? I will. If I had to win one game, I'm taking Michael Irvin.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where my mind was at as well.
I was thinking
just because I've been in a lot of you got to win this game to get to the Super Bowl.
We've seen him do it in the biggest moments.
And he's
if I have to win 100 games and lead my team to the Super Bowl, I want Michael Irvin.
Right.
T.O.'s the guy I'm taking for one game because I know he's going to show up, give me his absolute best.
Oh, no.
I don't even need to teach him the playbook. Just tell him the routes he's running. He's going to kill who's ever out there, maybe two of them at the same time.
What was the playmaker versatility, lining up in the slot, moving around,
outside
Lamb?
Guy?
It was just you knew where he was going to be, kind of that way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Lamb right now. And
He played at a time where receivers in college used to put their hands down in a 3-point stance on the outside.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I remember going back to that '94 game, and Michael played phenomenally well against primetime, against Dion.
Yes.
They got him specifically for that game, and I think Michael had 2 touchdowns on him.
Yeah.
And that's the best corner in the history of the sport.
How much does winning the Super Bowl matter in this? You're just looking at the traits in the tape, right?
I'm just watching
You're not
the
considering
tape.
team success.
Yeah. I mean, Jerry Rice, but one of the greatest running backs I ever saw in my life, I always talk about, was Barry Sanders.
Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
Barry Sanders was in there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mean Bijan Robinson?
Okay.
I mean, you know what? Seriously, man, he started off so well in Atlanta. I don't know what.
Oh, that's an Arthur Smith issue.
I don't know what's going on down there, man. How do you not use that guy?
You want to keep him fresh.
Yeah, you don't want to win the division, I guess. I don't know.
The Saints don't either.
If you're going to take the guy, you got to get him and build an offense around it to dominate and be the contrarian in the passing league. Have fun trying to stop our running offense when you're preparing for pass 365 days a year. Dak Prescott stuck out his tongue, as the broadcast showed, after a back foot completion to CD. Dak saying, they showed that. I'm going to be honest. I was throwing it away. But that's CD Lamb being CD Lamb. And that is Oklahoma CD going up high, getting balls. I really feel like, and this goes to Dez was the same way, but CD might even be more this way. Once he touches the football, it's like he gets a 25% boost for the next 10 minutes. And if you keep feeding him the football, it just incrementally grows until he's like this Dragon Ball Z type of superpower character ready to explode.
Yeah, he's on fire, video game style, absolutely. Yeah. And early on in the game, I mean, that lefty single
oh my God.
While he's drawing defensive pass interference, it's I was like, oh my gosh, what a monster.
The thing about the ball, the pass, the miracle pass that you want to throw to Lamb down the sidelines, they're going to wheel that thing. They're going to try and run the wheel route. And really, Dak's looking to his left and comes back. And I thought he was going to run with the ball because there was a little bit of a gap there. And also because Steele did a good job of getting his guy up the field and then kind of pinning him there. But Dak just, when he went up, and then he's like, well, wait a minute, I can make a play here. And he just stepped back. And I'm like, well, what's he doing here? But it was a great job by Lamb. Tracked the ball the whole way. Holmes never saw where the ball was. And when it was short, that's when Lamb came flying back. He knew this, okay, I'm going to go make this play.
Yeah.
And Holmes is like, I don't know why you're running back to the ball, but here it is.
Yeah.
I think Dak was trying to throw. Matter of fact, there was a play where Dak, remember the one they threw in the back of the end zone? He was trying to throw the ball away from the back, and Lamb came from nowhere to almost make the catch.
Yeah.
He was tight roping on the back line there. And we were all going, well, Dak's throwing it away. Oh, CD almost caught it.
Holy
crap. I mean, it was that kind of.
There were some throws yesterday that made me wonder, has a light bulb come on for Dak as far as I got to try these throws between levels? And this is what the offense demands, more timing and more anticipation and trusting the receiver. Trusting my arm that I can drop it in there, because those were, some of the best passes he's made in his career. You got to wonder how much is it added confidence because the Giants can't take away the space. That's what gives you confidence.
Yeah,
that's what allows receivers to run into space is lack of a defensive awareness and speed.
Giants team defensive speed is really poor.
It is
really poor. And so you got to take advantage of that.
Rico Dowdle in the end zone. How has he made the most of his opportunities today versus the Giants? The latest indicator he deserves more of them in the future. 12 carries for 79 yards and a touchdown. That's Michael Gelkin. He is sharpening his axe on that story, as he is one of the reporters that asked Mike McCarthy about that last week, and McCarthy got testy. And what you're seeing right now is Gelkin's pen's pretty sharp, and he's going to keep on writing about that, and I hope he does. I think Mike McCarthy has to switch to Rico Dowdle. If I'm a Jones boy right now, I say if you want any chance of coaching next year, we can't see Tony Pollard with more carries until he has more yards per attempt. It's not going to happen until he goes out there and looks like TP of last year. I don't care what you told his agent about playing nice on the franchise tag. I don't care what kind of deals you have going. We cannot continue to really waste running plays. It was twice as many yards per attempt yesterday. It's a waste. It's setting up for 3rd and long if you're handing the ball to Tony Pollard as opposed to Rico Dowdle, and it's crazy that it was the exact opposite last year. Did all the touches wear him down quickly? He told you last year on 3 different occasions, I'm only a part-time runner. After 15 carries, I'm Dunsky. I thought it was a ridiculous thing for him to admit that about himself, but he did, Brian, and multiple coaches agreed with him.
Well, it's funny because on the way out, Skip Pete, who's now the running back coach in Tampa, said, if you want to get the absolute best out of Tony Pollard, you better have 2 backs.
Yeah.
You better have another back to play along with
And
him.
maybe now they do.
Yeah.
Maybe now that he's going to be under 15 attempts a game, hopefully throughout the rest of the year he can get that freshness back.